Good to see this great group here today. I'm excited to introduce Owen McCulloch. Owen and his wife Julia have had a wonderful scouting story that has taken them from Portland, Oregon, to Boulder, Colorado, to Sea Base in the Florida Keys, to Jacksonville, Florida, to Cimarron, New Mexico, to the National Scout Headquarters in Irving, Texas. Owen began his newest chapter in October as the new Scout Executive for the Yocona Area Council, covering the 12 counties in Northeast Mississippi. Owen's an Eagle Scout from Troop 377 in Portland, Oregon, and has been a professional scouter since 1993. He and his wife, Julia, met at Oregon State University in Corvallis, Oregon, go Beavs, where they both graduated with speech communication degrees. He's had the opportunity to visit all 50 states and several of the U.S. territories. Owen has been active in multiple community organizations such as Rotary, Kiwanis, Toastmasters, and the Chamber of Commerce. When he's not busy scouting with scouting activities, you'll find Owen bagpiping or hiking, and Julia teaching ice skating or yoga. All three of his children have been active in scouting, and he is a scouting volunteer leader. As a scout for Wren Troop 56, first it was formed when I was a young boy by the Presbyterian Church there. I have such great memories of my time as a scout. They were talking about going to national events. The troop from Wren, Mississippi never went to any national events, but we did spend some wonderful time camping at Camp Palala in Philadelphia, which doesn't exist anymore, and at the Wrenwood Campground in the Wren community there. It's such a great organization for our young people, and help me welcome Owen.
Thank you, everyone. It is good to see. I haven't seen this many people in like a room for a while. This is very exciting to see everybody, and thank you for folks joining online as well. It's kind of refreshing, isn't it, to start seeing people. And I'm just back from a spring break trip with my family. My eldest, Maggie, is taking her senior COVID gap year from college, which is, I guess, a thing now. There's the dad in me is a little uncomfortable with it, but I got to admit, today's kids, the college, the high school, the school experiences are all so different from anything most of us went through. I've got that's Maggie taking her senior year. She's teaching skiing in the hills of West Virginia. She worked for the fall at Philmont Scout Ranch out in New Mexico on their fall adventure staff. And Colleen is my college freshman, college out in Golden, Colorado, so Colorado School of Mines, and a brand new Eagle Scout. So she is a member of the inaugural class of female Eagle Scouts, so very proud. And I'll tell you, there's no slack cut. For anybody that was worried about there being different sets of requirements for girls in scouting, that was not the case. And boy, she knows her stuff better than I did. My youngest, Declan, is a freshman at Tupelo High School, and just started there in January. And listening to what COVID is like in high school, you thought high school was bad before. The description of what kids are going through is such a challenge these days. You know, poor kid, he's got both sisters out of the house, so he's kind of a single, you know, he's the only child with parents hovering. How's your day? What'd you learn? Did you make any new friends? Over and over, he's got our full attention. And his description, he's like a normal 15-year-old boy, just sort of, no, grunts, yeah, no. But and he's the introvert of the family, so he's a little quieter to begin with. He says, no, I haven't met anybody and I don't know anybody's names. I said, oh, you really got to work at it. A friend of mine who's a school teacher here said, no, that's what it's like these days. They go into class, that classrooms are about half capacity. They sit down, they open up their Chromebook, they look at the lesson on the Chromebook that the teacher has pre-recorded. The teacher's in the corner of the room, but not interacting with students. And everybody's wearing masks. The teachers say it's incredibly hard for them to have that feedback that they need of a classroom, of people looking back. Some of the, class attire rules are a little bit lighter than before. So kids are wearing hoodies with a mask and this much showing. And she said, it's just so hard for kids to meet one another, for teachers to get feedback. And I say that because it's a challenge. We'll get past it. These things too will change. I know that the schools in Mississippi are looking forward to opening up fully this fall. I'm sure there will be some parts of COVID that will never quite get over. Remember the first time you saw people wearing masks in public and it seemed so strange? And now it seems strange when you don't see somebody with a mask on at Kroger or somewhere. And I'm sure schools will have some residual effect like that too. But I want to let you know that on the scouting side of things, scouting, like many organizations in the area, has certainly had its challenges with COVID. I mean, it'd be hard pressed to find a business or an organization or a church that hasn't felt the impact of COVID. But I want to let you know that the good things that have always been part of scouting, as Tom had mentioned, some of those experiences growing up as a youth in the program are still the same things happening today. Kids are still going out in the woods and going camping. They're camping in the tent by themselves usually, unless it's a family member, but they're still out there. They're still going to camporees. They're still doing pinewood derbies. They're still doing those essential parts that are part of our program of helping a kid be a kid and learn in a place where it's okay to fail. I made some of my best failures ever in scouting, and I learned some of my best lessons in scouting. I still laugh when I think of my scoutmaster who would review our menu plans. And there I was, a young, probably about my son's age, probably a young 15-year-old kid grunting yeses and nos. And we turned in our menu for our camp out that weekend. And we were older scouts at that point, so we thought we kind of knew it all. And it was a 3-day weekend, a 3-day camp out, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We're like, backpacking. We're just going to go bare bones on this. We're going to get the 5-pound bags of M&Ms. That's all we're going to have to do. No cooking, no cleaning, no, hunched over the campfire trying to burn a pancake on both sides. M&Ms. Seemed great idea the first night. And even for breakfast on Saturday, we were kind of chuckling as others were struggling to start their fires in that Oregon sunshine we call rain. And we're just munching away at our M&Ms, just quite happily. By lunch, it started to wear a little thin. I'm like, oh, even a PB&J would be kind of nice. By dinner, it had worn off as our other fellow troop mates were out there cooking real food, and we're kind of slowly eating M&Ms with a little bit of lesson learned. By Sunday morning, we couldn't wait to get home. Our scoutmaster knew exactly what they signed off on, and we were allowed to make that kind of mistake. And in scouting today, this is still a place kids are allowed, and I would even say encouraged, to make those kind of mistakes. Now, we weren't going to die from eating too many M&Ms, but we were going to learn a pretty important lesson that we were allowed to learn. So scouting still does that. Scouting still has that amazing opportunity for young people to come out and have opportunities that will teach them lessons for life. And by the way, I'm still not really all that big on M&Ms, but little flashbacks. But it really gave me an opportunity as a young person growing up to have responsibilities that most kids that age don't have. So many things are sort of pre-packaged and pre-approved and pre-done and controlled for kids, that giving them the opportunity to lead a group of other 12, 13, 14-year-olds in the woods, which, let's be honest, 12, 13, 14-year-olds are inherently dysfunctional. It just is. That's what they're programmed to be. But to give them a chance to lead a group like that and to make menu plans and to look at maps and make decisions and where do we put this, where do we put that, for them to have that level of responsibility at that age teaches them incredible lessons that they carry forward with them for the rest of their lives. They become many of the leaders in our communities. They become the chairs of the committees. They become Rotarians. They become Kiwanians. They become those people in our communities who really have had to make decisions from a younger age. And that's really what we're in the business of doing. We're often seen as a camping organization, and that's what you often see scouts doing. We're pretty popular in the outdoors. We get lost more than other groups. I'm actually one of the authors of a relatively new merit badge for Boy Scouts, which is a search and rescue merit badge. And we've been doing search and rescue for a long time. We just didn't want the recognition for it. There's actually a book, if you're ever in search and rescue, it's sort of a Bible of statistics called Lost Person Behavior. And it's a pretty cool book. You can actually look it up by type of activity and who's doing it. So if you're a horseback riding hunter, 50 years of age, experienced, you can look down the chart and figure out that they're going to be found in about 0.8 miles from the last known point. It's a massive compendium of statistical data. Now, there's all these categories, and there's only actually one group in there by name. Guess who it is? Boy Scouts of America. So if you're in there, if you're a troop, and here's where they're going to be found. And it's not because we get lost more than others. We're just out there. And that's what we really push our kids and our adults to go do. We were just talking, we just had 2 troops get back from Philmont Saturday night, well, Sunday morning early. I think there were some snow delays out of Denver that pushed them to Albuquerque. They landed back up in Memphis around 2:30 in the morning, early Sunday morning, from a week of backpacking in the mountains, in the Sangre de Cristo Mountains of New Mexico. Fantastic opportunities that we push people to do. But interestingly, camping is not in the mission of Scouts. Character development, personal fitness, citizenship, and leadership are really the 4 things that we focus on. Just that our classroom is called outside. One of our benefits this last year of being able to have the classroom of outside is that we've still been able to pivot a little bit and be able to still have activities. Troop 12 is still, any alumni of Troop 12 here? All right. Troop 12, how many years camping have they been?
Since 1951.
Since 1951, Troop 12 has camped every month consecutively that entire time, COVID included. They're committed to getting kids out there in that environment where they're allowed that opportunity to succeed and to fail. This last year, challenging year for everyone, interesting year for scouting, we actually had more Eagle Scouts, more youth achieve the rank of Eagle Scout in 2020 than we did in 2019. 48 youth achieved the rank of Eagle. 2 weekends ago, I was up in Corinth, and we had a class of 16 Eagle Scouts from the same troop in Corinth. So scouting has continued to provide the things that so many kids are missing. So many, our schools are struggling to try and figure out how to capture this sort of lost opportunity the kids are in from being remote for so many months, for so much time. Scouting continues to provide those opportunities for those young people even today. Now, we're not without our challenges. If you've been watching any of the national news, it's been hard to miss. Scouting has had its challenges this past year. We've had them before, but the biggest part is that our national organization, which this is the quick part on how the BSA is organized, it's like a franchise. The Yocona Area Council, founded in 1926, is a separate organization than the Boy Scouts America, Inc. So our national organization, which is chartered out of, which is headquartered out of Irving, Texas, Dallas area, is the one that is going through bankruptcy and that you've seen in the media and that has the lawsuits against it. So there was a broad campaign, but actually the Boy Scouts themselves were actually funding part of that campaign to try and identify any past victims of abuse. As a side note, Yocona Area Council doesn't have any claims of abuse that we have against us from before or for now. We have some folks that were from this council that have filed claims with the national organization for things that had happened largely in the past. The majority of claims filed against the Boy Scouts America happened in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. In the 80s, the Boy Scouts America nationally adopted what's called youth protection. It is the child abuse prevention program of the Boy Scouts America. They were among the first youth organizations to put anything like this into play. They recognized, and they had maintained their own database for years, that people who were out there to harm kids would look for organizations, no surprise, like Scouts, like soccer, like youth groups, like the YMCA, other great organizations out there. But that's where they would go to where the kids were. And so in the 80s, the Boy Scouts America instituted youth protection standard trainings and provided it to all organizations. You didn't have to be a scout to take it. And many other organizations started adopting what has now become really the gold standard of youth protection standards. So when you look at child abuse cases, at least ones that happened that in the Boy Scouts, they've never been in the business of denying. They wanted to provide victims assistance funds all this time. That the cases largely stopped in the 1980s. There's still some flyers out there, but 1980s, when we put those standards into place, it's like a line that was drawn. And scouting today is the safest place for a youth to be. And I mean that I include schools, open society, even home. Scouting meetings, scouting activities are safer than any of those places today because of the standards that are in place by the Boy Scouts of America. They have just been the leader in this. That's not what the media part is, because we know that tends to be a little bit more salacious, but that's the truth of it. Scouting today is safer than it has ever been before. Our challenges right now are, of course, getting out and getting kids into the program, getting the word out. The scouting is still there and available because, like many organizations, people have pulled back. But that's where we are right now. We're looking to open up our summer camp. We've got Camp Marie coming up in a few weekends. Camp Yocona, which is our property down in Pontotoc County, which will have been, let's see, 75 years ago this year, our board voted to start putting money into this property out in Pontotoc. And so next year will be our 75th year of operation of kids camping in that property. It's still a spectacular property out there. Kids have the opportunity to come out, make mistakes. We don't serve M&Ms, but they can get them in the trading post. But they have the opportunity to come out and learn things. So many of the merit badges, if you're, how many folks in here were in scouts or had brothers or parents and families in scouting? Majority of them. Swimming merit badge, still a thing. The water, still cold. Wednesday for canoeing merit badge is still the day that you swamp your canoes and learn how to unswamp them. It's quite a skill if you haven't tried it before. All those same things are out there. They can also learn welding, carpentry, automotive mechanics. They learn civics lessons through the Citizenship Merit Badge series. There are things that they learn quite accidentally along the way that will give them amazing impacts for the rest of their lives. And one of the exciting things for me is coming into this role. I started in October and had a little Airbnb that I rented right down actually South Church for the first couple of months. We bought a house, sold a house in Texas, bought a house here. We have a house right in the historic downtown. Tom Evans' old home. Okay, everybody. I found most of you have probably been in my house. So yeah, Robbie for sure. So and just for those that have been in the house, you know, the dramatic paintings that Tom had done on the ceilings, all those are staying. We're doing the walls. Purple's not quite my shade. But what a legacy that man left for this town, and to be able to come into a home like that and a history like that. I would say we have been incredibly welcomed since coming to Tupelo. We were in Dallas for about 7 years. We've been in the house here. The moving vans unloaded December 28th. We've met more neighbors here in the short time, 2.5 months, that we met in 7 years in Dallas. The kind of welcome that we've gotten is just heartwarming. My wife is being recruited into numerous things. Apparently she's trying out, Tom already knew her name, trying out for the upcoming play down at Community Theater this weekend. So, and we really felt welcome. The legacy of scouting in this community is incredible. As I looked through our minutes from, founding Camp Yocona almost 75 years ago, so many of the same names that are community leaders today are generational. I looked, I'm like, oh, that's the same Reed, isn't it? No, Chauncey. There was Chauncey before. Look at that. Look at all these names that are the same folks that have carried forth community and generations of caring in Tupelo and in this part of the state. It is amazing to see what kind of support this community gives programs that grow our kids. So it's very exciting and very welcoming to be part of that. Where does scouting go from here? So right now, I mean, we're looking to be in growth mode. We just hired a new executive for the Appalachia District, which is where we sit here. She was formerly with the American Cancer Society, and I don't think she's announced yet, so I'll probably hold off and say her name for the moment, but we'll have a new executive starting April 1st, who is focused on just this area. We have a seasoned executive out in the Oxford area, serving that area. We're actually looking for one more to be based out of and serve the Corinth area as well. So we're pushing to be in that growth mode of looking for opportunities to grow. Our Distinguished Citizen Dinner, Smitty Harris is our honoree this year. And we are still searching for a date that we just found out he's planning on attending Regional Rehab's event on Tuesday, the same week that we're planning on having our event on Thursday. Smitty's 95 right now, I think. So we want to make sure that we're not overtaxing our honorees for that time. But Distinguished Citizen Dinner and golf tournaments, we're looking to bring back the Ride with the King Harley ride. That's a popular event of our past. And if you're looking for opportunities to get involved with scouting, please, we're happy to have you. We do have a new event on the horizon that we're looking to get community involvement with. And it's a fun one. If you're ever in scouting as a youth in Cub Scouting, one of the most popular events we have is the Pinewood Derby Race. That's that little block of wood, cheap little wheels. I see some nods back there. Have you spent your time sanding and painting on the kitchen table? And it's a great opportunity for a Cub Scout to learn some basic skills and to have fun and to race against other Scouts. Well, that's still happening. And every Cub Scout throughout our council will be doing their Pinewood Derby cars. That's the time right now. We're actually looking to do a corporate Pinewood Derby race. So if you've ever wanted to build a car, you think you were cheated those years ago, this is your chance. This is your opportunity to race again. So we'll be looking at no details, no date set yet, but we do have a chair for the event that will bring Pinewood Derby car racing to a corporate level to a town near you. So we'll have a Tupelo championship. You can paint in your company colors. You can enter in 2 classes. One class is the Cub Scout rules apply. So that's the fit in the box rule. It can only be so heavy. It's got to be gravity fed only. The other rule, the other category is the open and unlimited category, which is cannot injure anyone okay, and must stay on the track. But it's kind of wide open at that point. I've seen ones that are propeller driven and battery powered, and even the CO2 cartridge can be strategically placed. So there will be a couple of categories for that. But just want to let you know that Scouting is still here, continuing to serve you, to serve this community. If you have need for Scouts, if there are places you want to see Scouts, if you have a flag ceremony or a ribbon cutting, or just want to have them come by and help, we're here to be part of that. So we're glad to be part of your community. I'm glad to be here, and I found my Rotary pin. And then my last Rotary club I was involved with was actually in the Florida Keys. I was in Rotary down. It was an interesting club. Ties were not allowed. You were actually fined if you wore a tie to that particular Rotary club. Shorts were encouraged, flip-flops even. And it was truly a Florida Keys style event. But the good that Rotary does and brings to their community, thank you for what you do, because it makes a difference for all of us. And with that, I know with Scouting people and alumni, if there are any questions, I'm happy to field any questions that folks may have about Scouting or where we're at. Yes, sir.
Bring us up to date on Philmont. I went to Philmont in 1958 or 59. Pretty rustic and basic back in those days. Is it still that way? Have they changed the procedures of going out there?
No, it's still pretty rugged and unique out there. Philmont Scout Ranch is a property owned, so there are camps across the country. Scout councils, everything. There's probably about 1,000 scout camps out there. There are 4 that are nationally owned and operated. So Florida Sea Base down in the Keys, Philmont Scout Ranch out in New Mexico, kind of near Taos, the Summit Vector Reserve in West Virginia, and the Canoe Base up in Ely, Minnesota, and 2 up in Canada. So Philmont is the largest piece of land out there. It's about 140,000 acres. So 219, 220 square miles or so of property, continuous, well, with a highway dividing the middle, you can actually drive through. And when crews go out there, they spend, the standard adventure is 12 days. They get out there on night number 1, they get there, they get a little bit of a shakedown. Don't take this, here's all the food you got to take, load up on water. And they spend the first 3 days hiking with a ranger, a staff member, who makes sure that they know all the safety things that they've got to do, how to avoid feeding the bears, those kind of important rules. And then that ranger leaves and that crew is on their own for the next 9 days. And they hike, they do resupply in the backcountry. So there will be spots that they will hike to, prearranged locations. They've got to stop, pick up more food, get some water, but largely they're on their own. They've got to have a map, a compass. GPS are pretty popular these days, but a GPS really only tells you where you are. Doesn't tell you which trailhead to take from where you're standing. So there's still plenty of adventure out there. It's the largest camping operation in the world. They will have every summer 24 to 25,000 trekkers hike Philmont for those 12-day period. When you add up how many camping nights are out there, it is amazing. And as pristine goes, a common comment made by all kinds of folks that go out there are like, "Where's the trash?" You'll be 20 miles into the backcountry and you won't find a wrapper, a twist tie, anything. It is amazingly pristine, and it is truly a legendary experience for so many folks. And you went in, said 56, 58. I would tell you, go out there now again. The mountains seem a little higher, and the ground definitely seems a little harder. So it's still quite the adventure with the folks that go out there. Was there something that came in? Oh, thank you. A good reminder. So there was just a question about Philmont and has it changed at all? Change-wise, I would say that the newest high adventure base for the Boy Scouts is the one out in West Virginia. It's near Beckley, West Virginia. You can fly into Charleston. It's about an hour drive from Charleston, West Virginia. It's a spectacular facility, much different than a Philmont or a sea base, which is ocean boats or canoe experience up in Ely. It is kind of a high adventure, X Games, more like experience. The entire property is wired for 4G, probably 5G now, LTE, Wi-Fi hotspots everywhere. It's got a championship-sized skate park for skaters. It's got BMX tracks. It's got 36 miles of downhill mountain bike track. It's got a world-class shooting sports facility there. It's about 1.5 miles of shotgun stands, one after another, all the way down. They've got a 92 stand sporting clays range. The 92 possibilities of the sporting clays out there. It's just an incredible facility. Aquatic playgrounds, and so it's no less of an adventure, but it's much different than what many of our folks have done of putting on the backpack and going out. It's a massive facility, and the boast that they like to make is typically in a week, you're in a 12-day trek at Philmont, you're going to hike anywhere from 70 to 90, or you're really a glutton, 120, 130 miles. The summit, you may not be wearing the 50, 60, 70 pound backpack, but you're probably going to walk as many miles as you do in a Philmont trek in the course of a week there, because it's purpose built originally for jamboree. And so our jamborees tend to bring 35,000 or so that camp on site for that duration. Yes, ma'am.
Question. What percentage of females join Boy Scouts?
Excellent. So it was just 2 years ago when scouting opened up. And I should start by saying, since 1969, we've had girls in exploring and venturing our co-ed high school age programs. Cub Scouting and Scout troops were still just single gender. So it was February 2 years ago when that was removed, and girls are now invited in a Cub Scout pack. Girls are in a den. Dens are a grade specific group. For a troop, which we're still, I'm a lifer, so it's hard. I keep on wanting to say in a Boy Scout troop, in a troop, you'll have a troop of boys and a troop of girls. So it's very much, and that is really up through that age, up into high school. They can still go co-ed in venturing, which are the high school ages. But in a troop, you got boy troops and girl troops. Right now, the percentage is still pretty small. COVID hit right as we were picking up on speed of joining. I would say that the initial class of girls that got Eagle was just about 1,000 girls that were able to achieve Eagle in that 2-year period. And proud dad, because Colleen's one of them. So I'm pretty excited for her. She's working at Philmont this summer too. But right now it's probably close to around 10% of the membership are actually girls. So that's okay. When we first started Cub Scouting, I think we had a few hundred kids join Cub Scouting when Cub Scouting was new in the 1950s, and it grew from there. So we knew it was going to be a multi-year growing opportunity for us. And no slights against Girl Scouts at all. They have a tremendous program. Both of my girls were in Girl Scouting. They're different programs, and they got great lessons out of Girl Scouting. Unfortunately for them, they were pretty well. I mean, they grew up we lived at Philmont for 5 years. We lived at Sea Base for 4 years, so they kind of grew up in these high adventure areas, and they gravitated pretty quickly towards doing a lot of the adventurous things.
Another question was, do you have a strategy for recruitment of Bernard?
Absolutely. No, I'm glad for that question. The first thing is, I would love to hire some folks. We're hiring a woman, which is great. Like to hire minorities as well. We've actually put calls into Rust to be able to try and fill our additional position, because a lot of times the kids, I recognize that me going into a classroom recruiting a bunch of 2nd or 3rd grade kids, they're going to see an old white guy. And if I'm a kid in that class and I don't see myself being recruited by that kind of person, I'm going to lose that opportunity to recruit the kids. So I recognize we need to be better at bringing more color, more depth into how we're recruiting. There's a council over in Texas that was, again, tough year for the Boy Scouts. It was the one council in the country that had membership growth, Cato Area Council. And one of the things that they found was with recruiting boys and girls, for instance, they found that by a 3-to-1 ratio, if a man goes in and recruits in a classroom, the boys are going to join. If a woman goes into the same classroom, the girls are going to join, to a 3-to-1 ratio difference. So really recognize and appreciate your question, because you're right. If it's just the white guy up there, then that's not going to get the broadest amount of kids involved in the program. And all kids deserve a chance to do scouting, deserve a chance to make those kind of mistakes, and deserve a chance to be a scout. Yes, sir.
What's the age group for Cub Scouts and when do they join?
Sure. So the age breakdowns for the different programs, Cub Scouting really starts as young as kindergarten now with Lions, and then you go to Tigers, and it's all by grade. So Lions and then Tigers are first grade, Wolves, Bears, Webelos are 4th and 5th grade. And really in that 5th grade year, think of it much like how the schools are organized. That 5th grade year is when you really start to transition towards that junior high age. That's when scout troops start to kick in. So age 10 and a half or 11 is when most kids would cross over, boys and girls, from a Webelo scout into a scout troop. And that's really what that 5th grade year program is spent, getting them ready to move into a parent-driven program in Cub Scouting to a youth-driven program in a scout troop, where now they are taking leads from other young people who are patrol leaders, assistant patrol leaders, senior patrol leaders, where troop leadership are young people. So it's a very intentional program design from the youngest to the oldest. Cub Scouting is more of an organized chaos opportunity. You ever go to Cub Scout day camp? Oh yeah, you move them in herds. And you get to scout camp and you look down the roster and you've got 20 kids, they're all signed up for different merit badges. And after breakfast, you say, go. And off they go to their various merit badge classes. And usually they make it. More lessons learned. Other questions? All right, well, again, thank you for the opportunity to come talk to you about scouting. Thank you for what you do in Rotary. I very much appreciate it.